Recording in progress.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. خب, alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Al-Fiqh al-Istidlali by Sheikh Irvani, hafadhahullah. And as you remember, we were talking about qadha for fasting, and then we mentioned three options. The second one, which we want to discuss now, is when you have doubt about mani, safar or illness or ada for ladies. The third, which also we need to discuss today inshallah, is about whether mani is remaining or is stopped, has stopped. It's about baqa or zawal of mani. So with the second one, أما الصورة الثانية فيستصحب فيها عدم المانع. So if you didn't fast but you doubt whether you were musafir or not, so the first thing that comes to mind is that we should assume that mani, which was not existing before, because you are not always traveling or you are not always ill, still is the same. It was not there before at one point and still the same. يستصحب فيها, يعني في هذه السورة الثانية, عدم المانع. أعني استصحاب عدم تحقق السفر, because you were not always traveling. You know that you were at home at some point. Did you travel in that day of the month that you missed or not? والمرض يعني عدم تحقق المرض. فإن الآية الكريمة جعلتهما موضوعين لوجوب القضاء. The ayah said that if you are marza or ala safar فعدة من أيام أخر, means you do qadha after the month of Ramadan. So the subject for فعدة من أيام أخر, which is qadha, is تحقق السفر or تحقق المرض. So because this is موضوع for حكم الشرعي, so we can do istishab. It is not asl musbat. We can do istishab. وبذلك ينتفي موضوع وجوب القضاء. So we say this موضوع didn't exist, and safar didn't exist before. We continue thinking that it didn't exist at the second point. Or marad didn't exist, then we assume that Adam al-Marad continues. If Maraz, which was Mawdu, or Safar, which was Mawdu, don't exist, then Hukm is not there. Wujub al-Qadha is dependent on these, and when they are not there, Wujub al-Qadha is not there. يحكم بعدمه, يعني بعدم وجوب القضاء. This is the reasoning. وقد يشكل بأن السفر بنفسه ليس موضوعا لوجوب القضاء. Mustashkil wants to say that safar alone by itself is not subject for wujub al-qadha. It's not that wujub al-qadha is a hukm shari dependent on safar alone. Because there are cases that someone is musafir and, for example, is not familiar with the ahkam of safar, etc., and fasting is okay. Or if someone is married but doesn't know, it's okay. So سفر المعلوم أنه لا يجوز الصوم معه, this is subject, not سفر alone. قد يشكل بأن السفر بنفسه ليس موضوعا لوجوب القضاء. سفر alone by itself is not the subject for وجوب القضاء, for حكم شرعي. Otherwise, وإلا means if سفر was موضوع alone لوجب القضاء على المسافر إذا صام جهلا. Musafir, as long as musafir, qada is wajib, even if it is with jahl. إذا صام جهلا, then it doesn't matter, because safar is the mawzu and subject, and it is there. So we mentioned a case that you cannot accept qada for this case, when someone was musafir and was ignorant, didn't know, for example, hukm of musafir. بل الموضوع هو السفر plus something else. موضوع is not just safar, is safar مع العلم بعدم جواز الصوم. So if he didn't know this hukm, this mas'ala, then it's okay. ومعه, خب, if موضوع is not just safar, is safar plus something else, فلا ينفع استصحاب عدمه لنفي وجوب القضاء, then it doesn't help us to do istishab of adam al-safar in order to say qada is not wajib, because it's not the whole subject. The same is what disease, illness. وكذا المرض فإنه بوجوده الواقعي لا يمنع, يعني مجرد المرض, مجرد someone in reality is ill, it's not enough, it doesn't stop. Maybe someone has big problem in health but doesn't know. ولذا يصح من الجاهل بعدم الجواز معه مع المرض. يصح هو يعني يصح الصوم من الجاهل بعدم الجواز, someone who doesn't know that an ill person should not fast. He has illness but doesn't know mas'ala, it's okay. Unless إذا لم يكن ضرره بالغا درجة الحرمة. Of course, if the illness is not causing so much of harm that it's haram. There are cases that with marad, still the person may manage to fast and may not know that it is harmful or it is prohibited. But there are some cases then they are so harmful that they become obvious. خب, this is the ishkal, but this ishkal is not very strong. Why? Because whenever you have a subject which is compound, it's murakkab, in order to have the subject, you need both parts to be there. Yeah, because murakkab لا يتحقق إلا مع تحقق أجزائه. A compound can only exist when all the parts are there. But what about a compound not existing? If a compound doesn't exist, it doesn't mean that all parts should not exist. It's sufficient if one part is missing. A plus B, like for example oxygen and hydrogen, they make water. In order to have water, you need both. But in order not to have water, even if you don't have one of them is enough. If you don't have both, you cannot have water. Even if you have one, not both, still you cannot have water. So, الجواب يمكن إجراء الاستصحاب لنفي المجموع المركب. We can say safar didn't exist before, as we said before, and we assume it is the same. When safar doesn't exist, murakkab from safar and ilm بعدم الجواز, that murakkab doesn't exist. Or when maraz doesn't exist, al-murakkab min al-maraz wa adam al-ilm doesn't exist. يمكن إجراء الاستصحاب لنفي المجموع المركب فيستصحب عدم السفر المقرون بالعلم. So we can do istishab of عدم السفر, which has to be with ilm. But we say safar didn't exist, so it still doesn't exist based on istishab. Therefore, the murakkab doesn't exist. بل لا حاجة إلى نفي المجموع المركب لأن المقصود plus. We don't want to say qadha is necessary so that we say the compound subject should exist so that qadha exists. We want to say qadha does not exist. مقصود نفی وجوب القضاء لا اثبات وجوب القضاء و یکفی لنفی الوجوب نفی احد جزئی موضوعه. One of the two parts is missing, it's enough. ثم إنه بغض النظر عن هذا الأصل الموضوعي يمكن إجراء الأصل الحكمي. خب, one issue is to do istishab or not to do istishab for موضوع الحكم. Another way is to do bara about hukm. وجوب القضاء was not fixed upon us before. We do براءة, أصالة البراءة. يمكن إجراء أصل الحكم وهو البراءة عن اشتغال الذمة بالقضاء. I know that before I was not required to do qadha, for example, before months of Ramadan. Now, do I need to do qadha or not? As long as it is not proved, I assume I don't have any taklif. خب, this is second form when shak was in mane. The third, وأما الصورة الثالثة فقد يقال. This is شك في البقاء, زوال المانع والبقاء المانع. فقد يقال بأن استصحاب السفر والمرض موجب لإحراز موضوع وجوب القضاء. It is said sometimes that assuming that safar, because mane is proved, shak is, as I said, في زوال المانع. Someone who was musafir doesn't know that this safar continued for 2 days, 3 days, was just 1 day, for example. Or this maraz continued for many days or just 1 day, few days, for example. Doesn't know the extra. خب, استصحاب السفر والمرض موجب لإحراز موضوع وجوب القضاء. Someone says, we do istishab. You were musafir, we assume you were musafir for more days. Then, because qadha is based on safar, you have to do qadha. فيحكم بوجوبه. Some people have said, but قاعدة الحيلولة, which we discussed before, stops application of istishab, because this is more specific and says if after amal finish you doubt, you ignore. بأن الاستصحاب المذكور لا يجري بعد جريان قاعدة الحيلولة. But as you remember, we said قاعدة الحيلولة in hadith is about salat. If faqih can establish that it would be applicable to other ibadat, other acts of worship like fasting, then that's fine. Otherwise, we have to keep it limited to salat. خب, this is one إجابة, one reply. The second is أو بأن السفر بنفسه ليس مانعا. Safar by itself is not an obstacle. بدليل أن من صام جاهلا صح صوم. As we said, if someone fasts without knowing, even if he's musafir, for example, no problem. If he didn't know حكم musafir. ومعه فإن استصحاب السفر لا يكفي إلا أن يضم إليه عدم تحقق الصوم جهلا. Unless we add to it that this didn't happen jahlan, out of ignorance. خب, can you establish this with istishab when hukm shari is not based on safar alone? This cannot be established by istishab because it becomes, according to this person, asl musbit. هو لا يمكن إثباته بالاستصحاب. We cannot establish that this person had safar plus عدم تحقق الصوم جهلا. This cannot be established. Sheikh Irwani says, with respect to قاعدة الحيلولة, we have problem that maybe that is only for salat. يمكن دفعه بأن مورد قاعدة الحيلولة باب الصلاة. Because the hadith that we mentioned, the footnote last week, they were about salat. واستظهار شمولها لباب الصوم مشكل. If a faqih says, what I understand from zahir, from al-ma'na zahiri for these hadiths, it's that salat is just a case, doesn't limit the meaning. It's general, it includes fasting. He says this istizhar is mushkil. والسفر المجرد, just safar alone, وإن لم يكف استصحابه, although its istishab is not sufficient, إلا أنه في كثير من الأحيان مقرون في الزمن السابق بالعلم بعدم صحة الصوم. But many times it is coming with additional knowledge that previously he knew that with safar, Sawm is not valid. So we can say the same kind of safar with ilm that musafir cannot fast is mustashab. We assume it is the same. So istisab is possible. Al-ajda. Therefore, he doesn't accept the 2 points that mentioned by the person who wanted to reply. And he says, what is better is بأنه يحتمل أن موضوع وجوب القضاء هو الفوت بمعناه الوجودي. It is possible that the subject for موضوع القضاء is what we said before, fault in an existential sense. Fault is not just عدم الصوم. اقض ما فات, if we suppose that this is for fasting as well, because we had cases for salat. If we assume that for fasting also qada is based on fault, and fault means something existential, the gap that is created by not securing the maslaha which was in fasting is like illness. Illness is wujudi. Illness is not just adamus siha. Or death is wujudi, is not just adamul hayat. Fault is also wujudi. If we accept that fault is wujudi, it's a kind of condition that you have lost maslaha, like illness. Or like hunger, thirst, these are wujudi. It's not just not eating. خب أن السفر في الآية الكريمة ذكر كسبب للفوت. If you say, okay, if hukm is based on fault, why in ayah says إن كنتم مرضى أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخرى? It says in the ayah safar is mentioned because safar is the cause for fault, for missing. Sometimes we say sabab and we mean musabbab. وَمَعَهُ فَاسْتِصْحَابُهُ. If subject matter is fault and safar can be established by istishab, that safar continues, does this prove fault? No, because it becomes asla musbat. Safar is not mawzu'ul hukm. Mawzu'ul hukm is fault, which is wujudi. Therefore, استصحابه يعني استصحاب السفر لا يثبت عنوان الفوت. لا يقال إنه مجرد احتمال لا يكفي في مقابل الظهور. It shouldn't be said that this ihtimal, that subject for wujub al-qadha is fault, is just a probability which is not strong enough to stand against zuhur. Zuhur is safar, to be subject. Sheikh Irwani says, إنه احتمال مؤيد. This ihtimal is supported by something that doesn't let us to become sure. مؤيد بما لا يجزم معه بانعقاد السيرة على العمل بالظهور. Why we say Zahir is Hujjah? Because there is Siri Uqala, they act according to Zahir. But does an aqil person or do Uqala act upon Zahir when there is such case, such condition, that we have something powerful like iqdamafat saying that fault is the reason, not just adamus safar, so that you can say we can use zahir of in kuntum, for example, marza or ala safar. What is mu'ayyad? What is something here that stops zuhur to be accepted by uqala? Why uqala might be, even ihtimal is enough, might be hesitant to accept zahir here. وحاصل المؤيد أنه يبعد كون الموجب للقضاء والسفر بمجرده. It's unlikely, it's ba'id, that what causes qadha is just safar alone. This is unlikely. والأقرب كون الموجب موجب له يعني موجب للقضاء عدم إدراك المصلحة وفوتها يعني فوت المصلحة بسبب السفر. Qadha must be for something existential. You have a condition like fault, which is like illness, which is like death. As I said, it's wujudi, means you have missed something important. You have lack and absence and shortcoming of something important. وَإِنَّمَا أُبِّرَ بِالسَّفَرِ دُونَ الْفَوْتِ. In the ayah, for example, why it didn't say إِن فَاتَكُمُ الصَّوْمُ? Why it said إِن كُنتُم مَرْضَىٰ عَلَى سَفَرٍ? Didn't say إِن فَاتَكُمُ الصَّوْمُ. لأنه الأيسر في الإيصال إلى المغرب. Because it's easier to communicate in this way, to say to people, if you are musafir, if you are ill, you should do qadha. You are not dealing with fuqaha only, you are dealing with the public. So this is easier way to communicate. Okay, alhamdulillah, this finished. And as I said last week, the next part is about wasailu ithbat al-hilal, means. Wasail means means, or you can say ways, turuq, if it was turuq. Wasail means, if it was turuq, means ways of establishing crescent, of beginning of the month of Ramadan or end of it for beginning of Shawwal or any other months. Throughout the year, it's good to do istihlal. It's not only for months of Ramadan. Maybe someone wants to do some amal for awwal mah, for beginning of every month. Maybe someone has made a nadr of fasting, for example, middle of the month. Things like that. It's always good, but the most crucial month to know the beginning and end of it is month of Ramadan. There are few things that we need to discuss and to see whether we can accept them as reliable ways of establishing new crescent or not. Al-ilm, knowledge. Al-itmi'nan. Itmi'nan is not 100%, but it's so high that you don't consider the other likelihood. Shahadatu adlain, when two just witnesses offer their testimony. They said, we have seen the moon, or in our presence moon was sighted. At-tatawwuq, tawq is like a kind of thing that you put around something, like necklace. For example, some fuqaha, not mashhur, they said, if you see the crescent of the new moon in the way that there is light and around it is visible, like a wall or like a border, this means that it is the second night. So the previous night was first night. Some have said this, but not mashhur. Inshallah, we'll discuss. The fifth is hukmul hakim, when hakim shar issues a verdict. Hukm is different from fatwa. Fatwa is general. Hukm is applied to a particular case. And inshallah we'll discuss. Fatwa is hujjah for mujtahid himself, and if he is a'lam, for his followers, his muqalladin. Fatwa is hujjah for mujtahid himself and for muqalladin, those who follow him, if he's a'lam, if he's qualified marja. But hukm is applicable to all, even other mujtahideen, let alone their followers, should respect hukm which is issued by a qualified mujtahid. So if someone does hukm that tomorrow is the beginning of the month of Ramadan, all should respect, unless that hukm is based on a fatwa which is not general. That's then controversial, or maybe it's better to say it doesn't then work. For example, if we have few mujtahideen, they have the same understanding of crescent and how to view it, and now one person, he says that for him it was established, and he makes hukm. Normally they don't make hukm, but if he makes hukm, others should respect if they have the same basis, the same mabna. But if the one who is making hukm thinks that seeing with the naked eye and equipped eye are both okay, And in this case, his evidence was with the equipped eye. The other mujtahid says with the equipped eye is not adequate. So if the first one makes hukm, maybe the second person cannot follow. Why? Because the first one did hukm based on the assumption that seeing with the equipped eye is sufficient. اختلاف المبنى يؤثر في اعتبار الحكم. At least there is ground. This is possible to say such hukm would not be then applicable to all if mabna was different. But if mabna was the same, or perhaps someone says if mabna is not known to be different, then it may be applicable to others. Anyway, we will inshallah talk a little bit about this. But this is a very important topic in fiqh, and actually it can be discussed outside fiqh in usul al-fiqh. Now, let's start with علم. ذكروا أن الهلال يثبت بطرق أو يثبت بطرق. يثبت means established, يثبت means proved, بطرق in different ways. As I said, وسائل here means طرق, means methods, ways. منها العلم والاطمئنان وشهادة عدلين والتطوق وحكم الحاكم. We explained just now. Now let's go to details. العلم يثبت الهلال أو يثبت الهلال بالعلم الحاصل بالرؤية أو التواتر أو الشياع. Crescent of the new moon can be established with knowledge which is result of seeing. When you see yourself, there is knowledge. Or tawatur, many people report, to the extent that leaves no chance for saying they made mistake or they cooperated to say something wrong. No. So many people say that you become sure. Shia. Shia means it's not tawatur, but it's very much a spread. Many people have said in different places, they said we have seen. فَهُنَا مَبَاحِثُ الثَّلَاثَةِ. So there are three things that we have to discuss about ilm. Ilm which comes from ru'ya, ilm which comes from tawatur, ilm which comes from shia. All is under ilm. الأول العلم الحاصل بالرؤية. Knowledge, certainty, which is achieved, which is there by seeing. أما العلم الحاصل بالرؤية فقد ادعي الإجماع بين أصحابنا على كفايته. Among our ashab, it has been claimed that there is ijma', consensus. So some people said that our ashab have consensus that this is sufficient. حتى لمن انفرد بها. Even if you see and no one accepts from you, no one has seen it, you are the only person, so they may not accept because they may say, we need two people to be a witness. Or maybe there's a person who is not adil. Adil means someone who doesn't commit sin. Maybe someone has seen, but because he's not adil, because he's, for example, making sometimes sins, his offering of testimony is not accepted. His shahada is not accepted. But for himself, it's okay because he knows. He knows that tomorrow is Ramadan or tomorrow is Fitr. So he has to act according to his yaqeen. Uddu'iyya, where in Jawahir al-Kalam and Mustanad al-Shia. Uddu'iyya al-ijma' bayna ashabina على كفايته يعني كفاية العلم الحاصل بالرؤيا حتى لمن انفرد بها ومن ترد شهادته. ونسب إلى غيرنا التفصيل بين هلال رمضان فيثبت بالرؤيا أو يثبت بالرؤيا إلا عند عطاء وهلال شوال فيجب عند الشافعي وأبي ثور خلافا لمالك وأبي حنيفة وأحمد. خب non-Shia, it is attributed to them that they make distinction. According to Shia, Hilal of Ramadan and Hilal of Shawwal at the end are the same with respect to al-ilm, al-hasilu bil-ru'ya. But non-Shia, some have said that for beginning of Ramadan we accept, because when someone alone, for example, makes a claim that he has seen, okay, the result is he has to fast. Okay, no problem if you fast, even if it is Sha'ban, you fast. But they said if someone at the end of months of Ramadan, he says, I have seen the Hilal of Shawwal, and tomorrow comes to the street and wants to eat and drink on the street, other people are fasting, they say we don't accept this from them. Not because they have hadith about this or ayah. They use one of their sources. You know, our Sunni brothers, as we studied in Usul al-Istinbat, remember in Hose, I told you we should study end of Usul al-Istinbat about other dalil for Muslims, like Qiyas, Istihsan, Masalih, Mursalih, Saddu Dhara'i, Fathu Dhara'i. So they say here, because of Saddu Dhara'i, we need to not accept for Shawwal. Please look at the text. نسب إلى غيرنا يعني غير الشيعة التفصيل بين هلال رمضان فيثبت بالرؤيا إلا عند عطاء. Ata is one of the jurists. He is exception here. They normally say for Hilal of Ramadan يثبت بالرؤيا وهلال الشوال. So distinction is made between Hilal Ramadan and Hilal Shawwal. خب Hilal Shawwal يجب عند الشافعي. Shafi'i says we accept for Hilal Ramadan وهلال Shawwal both. Abi Thor the same. خلافا لمالك. Malik says we don't accept for Shawwal, we accept for Ramadan. Abu Hanifa the same. Ahmad ibn Hanbal the same. They don't accept for Hilal Shawwal if it is ilm for Roya without other people seeing. Why they don't accept? Because they don't want to leave room for fusaq. لسد الذريعة على الفساق. They don't want to leave any excuse for fusaq. إذ ربما يدعون الرؤية زورا. زورا means باطلا. Maybe they claim that they have seen not truthfully. ليفطروا, because they want to fast. Break the fast. They say Eid, we want to celebrate Eid, we want to eat, etc. While other people are fasting. Beginning, as I said, no problem. Even if it is months of Sha'ban, you want to fast, no problem. Actually, it's good if you fast or observe fasting in the end of Sha'ban. خب, what is the argument for Shia position? Why Shia say ilm بالرؤيا is enough? وقد استدل لمذهب أصحابنا. It has been argued for the opinion. Madhab here means opinion. For the opinion of our Shia jurists. Number one, أولا بأن موضوع وجوب الصوم هو شهر رمضان بوجوده الواقعي. When fasting is wajib? When Ramadan comes. Which Ramadan? Real Ramadan. Whoever has access to the reality, if you know the reality, okay, you follow your yaqeen, it's hujjah for you. Hujjah of yaqeen is dhatiyya, as we discussed in usul al-fiqh. وَمَعَهُ, if this is mawzu of wujub al-sawm, فَيَلْزَمْ إِحْرَازُهُ بِعِلْمٍ أَوْ عِلْمِي, then you have to establish it. Ihraz means to secure it. Ihraz, it can mean to protect. Like man tazawwaja faqad ahraza nisfa dineh falyattaqillah fi nas. Ihraz means to establish. You have to establish bi'ilm or ilmi. Ilmi means when you don't have certainty, but you are using a method which is known to be accepted, even if it is leading to dhan. Okay, there's a difference between ilm and ilmi. Ilm, I see by my eyes. Ilm. But if two adil, two just people, be a witness, do I get knowledge, yaqeen? No. But this is ilmi, because this dhan is dhan mu'tabar, is a valid suspicion. Why? Because hujjiyah of bayyana is established. لا تقف ما ليس لك به علم. Okay, if someone says you should only follow knowledge, why you do taqleed, for example, of maraja? You don't have yaqeen. Say, okay, I don't have yaqeen about correctness of this fatwa. You are right, I don't have yaqeen. But I have yaqeen that taqleed is hujjah. I am not sure. I cannot say, Wallah, what my marja says is correct. Unless it is badihi. When there are controversial opinions among maraja, I cannot say, Wallah, this is correct. But I can say, Wallah, I have hujjah, and I don't take any risk. We cannot do anything which is risky. But this is ilmi, not ilm. Ilmi means a reliable method which is known to be hujjah, and the resultant it's valid dhan, not necessarily yaqeen. Okay. Second argument, أن الشهر الشرعي يتحقق بخروج الهلال من تحت شعاع الشمس بحيث تمكن رؤيته. Religiously, month, every month, we have 12 months in the calendar. Religiously, month is happening when something happens in reality in the universe, when crescent comes out of the radiation of the sun, so that you can see. If you have knowledge that this has happened, okay. يترتب على هاتين المتقدمتين أن المكلف إذا رأى الهلال بنفسه يثبت في حقه وجوب الصوم والإفطار. يعني وجوب الإفطار للنصوص الدالة على لزوم الصوم والإفطار للرؤيا. We have hadith صوم للرؤيا, after للرؤيا. If you have seen it, then you follow. Sheikh Irwani says, actually, if we have these texts like Som la Ruya, after la Ruya, we don't even need to say that Ilm is Hujjah and this person has knowledge about the reality of the birth of crescent, etc. Although that is good, Hujjah, but even without that, we can just follow the scripture, the hadith. وفيه أنه مع النصوص المشار إليها, which is also in the footnote number 1, mentioned. وسائل الشيعة, volume 10, page 252, the third section, third chapter about أبواب أحكام شهر رمضان, which says صوم للرؤيا after الرؤيا. خب مع النصوص المشار إليها, with these texts which have been referred to, لا حاجة إلى المقدمة. We don't need even these two premises. بل يقتصر عليها. We can just take them as sufficient and be restricted in our discussion to them. Although if you want to use those premises as a backup, it's fine. This was al-ilm al-hasil bil-ruya. Inshallah, we have to talk next session about al-ilm al-hasil bil-tawatur, al-ilm al-hasil bil-shi'a. We will inshallah discuss in the next session. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.